How long are you going to let fear dictate who you are? I stood in the mirror and I asked myself that question. I think that it's a important question to ask yourself every time you feel afraid of a decision that you are going to make or a point that you've come to in your life. How long will you let fear dictate who you are? Will you not show up as yourself because you are afraid? Or will you show up as yourself despite of your fear? I wanted to discuss fear today because it is one of the oldest emotions and form of control that society has ever used on human beings. And by society, I mean everybody. Everybody, regardless of your ethnicity, your race, your gender, your creed, your religion, has encountered fear. And I would even argue that most religions, if not all religions, use fear. Fear is the main tenet in most religions. And so I will stay on the religion aspect just very briefly. My channel is not really about religion, but I do want to discuss how most people who are in religion do it out of fear. For most, it is fear of the God that they serve or fear of damnation. And so, regardless of what it is that people are fearing within those religions, they are not motivated by the love that they feel for the God that they worship, nor are they motivated by the love that they feel for other people. More so, it is the fear of damnation or the fear of, oh, God won't give me what I want if I don't serve God. And so I need to serve God. And so you never get to truly know God, and you never get to truly love the people around you because your motivation, one of your biggest motivations, is fear. And so we see in religion how fear creates space between God and your higher self and you. And we see how fear keeps people away from each other through religion too, or apart from each other rather, through religion also. We talk about society and how society has powered so many of us through fear, whether it's fear of the unknown, right? So I'm afraid of those people, so they stay over there and we get to stay over here because they're different from us. They're so different from us. We need to be so separated from them because they need to stay on that side and we need to stay on this side. Or whether it's fear of shortages. I remember when COVID happened, you remember people were fighting for tissue paper at Walmart and Target? That was motivation. That was fear. That was a fear-based motivation. So many people were moving out of fear of the unknown, because we didn't know what COVID was. We didn't know if we would have. Why were we fighting over tissue? Like, that needs to be studied, actually. Like, we didn't even go for water. Why tissue? But nonetheless, that was an instant where people were in fear. And fear is oftentimes highlighted by an unknowing, right? I don't know. I'm not sure. And so what I'm going to show up as in the world is fearful and afraid. Whereas I think that when you don't know something, when you're unsure of something, the feeling that you should feel should be curiosity, right? The unknown should be something that you're curious about. Because when we think about life and what we as human beings are here to do, we're here for experiences, for exposure. And so the highs and the lows of life, we're here to experience that and to learn from that, and hopefully to develop through and despite the lows. And despite the lows, we should grow, and through the highs we should love and grow also. And so when we take it back to society, we are motivated from a very young age as children and kept in line through fear. And so now we have a society where, like, our borders are locked and those people get to stay over there, and we need to be on this side, and we're afraid of them, right? We're afraid they're going to come and take our jobs. We're afraid, and It's actually impossible for anybody to come and take anybody's job. But nonetheless, let's not make this political. But we're afraid of those people, and so they get to stay over there. Or I'm afraid of people who don't share the similar worldview as me, and so they need to stay over there, and I should stay over here in my echo chamber, and they don't get to interact with me because I'm afraid that what they're saying over there will, for whatever reason, break into this glass building or this glass house that I've so elegantly built and carefully built and constructed for myself, that I need it to stay the way it is for me to survive. And that's what fear does. Fear will stifle you before you realize that you are choking. Fear will rid you of oxygen before you realize that you are choking. It is important that if you are going to show up, if you are going to be all that you want to be, all that you desire, that you rid yourself from fear, and that you show up to the unknown, not with fear or anxiety or dislike, but rather with curiosity. That you approach the unknown as a curious person, as somebody who wants to know more about that thing, as an opportunity for you to get to know yourself even further. That is how I feel like we as humans should approach the unknown. And I think that as you get older, all you're doing is unlearning and relearning and retraining yourself to be who you want to be. Because obviously, as children, we don't have control over who our parents are, how they raise us, who we have exposure to or lack thereof, or the religion and the creed that we come from. Unfortunately, as children, we don't get to decide those things. But as adults, we get to make our reality. We get to curate, we get to renew our mind, right? We get to create who we are going to be and how we are going to show up in the world. And that's something that we have the onus for. And so in comes in the desire and the need to unlearn and relearn and retrain yourself to become that which you want to be. And so fear cannot inhibit you from being who you are supposed to be. You cannot allow fear to inhibit you to become who you're supposed to be. And so many of us, so many people come to this planet, and unfortunately through circumstances and through life things, they are bogged down by fear. And when we think of fear, we think of something that creates space between people. We think of something that doesn't allow you to reach your potential. Why? Because oftentimes we are more afraid of what we've created in our mind than what is actually being presented to us. So many of the times we are afraid. Think about the time when you were a kid and you were afraid of the monster under your bed. Or think about the time when you were afraid to do something and then you did that thing and then you were like, wait, it was bigger in my head than it actually was to stand up to that thing. Or let's go back to the monster under the bed. When you finally were able to peer under your bed and see that it was just your toys. It was more than likely just the shadows of your shoes and the candy that you ate and threw under the bed. And there was actually nothing to be afraid of. And I think that that is the key that I want to share with you guys today, is that when you really look at it, when you really face the thing, you'll know that there's nothing to be afraid of. Fear is not something that should control you, and it is not something that should dictate how you show up in this world. Fear is, like any other emotion, a way for us to figure out whether or not we like the way something is, right? So when I eat something and I like the way it tastes, I feel something. I feel happy when I eat it. And so I know that, oh, I want more of that. And so when you're afraid of something, I think that it is important for you to investigate within yourself. Am I afraid of this thing because of what it is? Am I afraid of this thing because of what I was taught I should be afraid of? Or am I afraid of this thing because it's kind of exciting? Something that you're afraid of has a little hint of excitement because it's kind of a call to adventure for you, right? It's an opportunity, if you take it, to face a dragon, or to face a it just kind of reminds me of the myths that we read when we're children, is that facing of the dragon, right? That facing of the evil queen for the fairy tales, the princess fairy tales that the girls get to listen to. Because the girls don't get to face dragons, unfortunately, but they get to face evil witches. And so the facing of the evil witch, the facing of the dragon, right? When we face that thing, we become something else. We become another person. We become somebody different. And so it is that other person behind the fear that you want to get to, because that person knows something that you don't. They know that in spite of it all, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. And I used to hate that quote because it seems so cliche. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. Like, okay, whatever that means. There's nothing to fear but fear itself, whatever that means. But really and truly, that cliche quote is actually so truthful. Because when you actually face the problem, when you face the thing that you have felt so much fear about, you'll realize that you've created more. You've made it bigger in your mind than it actually is. And so that is what I would like to leave you guys with. I am looking forward to making more videos similar to this. And if you enjoyed this conversation or this type of conversation, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel, The Modern Sophisticate, because I talk a little bit about these kinds of things. I also talk about movies and the movie representations within myths, because myths are really, from the time I was a very young child, myths have been very important to me. And so I discuss mythology in the present day world too. And so if topics like this, as well as myths, kind of align with what you're looking for and looking to talk about, I'd love to have you subscribe to my channel. Also, please feel free to comment. I'd love to hear from you. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.